Welcome to Three Questions With. I'm Hugo, publisher of the Latino News Network and your host. Three Questions With is a public affairs program elevating the voices and visibility of matters most important to the Hispanic-Latino community by speaking with community and industry thought leaders on the social determinants of health and democracy. Hogar, dulce hogar. For many people of color in the U.S., the dream of homeownership can often feel out of reach. Despite advances in civil rights and anti-discrimination laws, systemic barriers and economic disparities continue to make it difficult for people of color to own a home. In all states, Black, Hispanic, and Native American households have lower rates of homeownership compared to white households. Similarly, Asian households are less likely to be homeowners in every state except Hawaii. Although the extent of these racial homeownership disparities may differ from state to state, their prevalence nationwide highlights the necessity for coordinated efforts at both the state and federal levels to close these gaps. Brighton Park Neighborhood Council is an intergenerational, community-based organization dedicated to equity and racial justice. Its mission is to improve the quality of life for the working class and immigrant population of Chicago's Southwest Sides through grassroots organizing and providing free and accessible social services and quality programs for youth and adults. Jasmine Gonzalez is the housing counselor with BPNC. She is our guest today. Jasmine, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start right away. BPNC's vision, what is it in regards to creating community where everyone has access to the resources and opportunities that they need to thrive?
So our organization is very complex. I feel like we have so many things to offer for the community. We work primarily with a very populated immigrant community, Latino, low income, working class. So when it was founded in 1997, the community members who founded it said, what is it that we need to help this community strive and be better and do better for our children? So our organization focuses a lot on violence prevention, housing stability, a voice for the youth, and many other things that just help the community grow as one, because after all, we have to grow together. So that's primarily what we tend to focus on, is just how is it that we can help community members have a voice, talk to policy workers and advocates to be able to get these resources into our community, having greener parks, having been able to have after-school programs for the kids to keep them out of the streets. And how is it that we can help homeowners sustain their house through budgeting, through credit improvement, and other programs that they might not know about because they're just working, going day by day, living check by check, sticking to the routines to be able to bring their kids out of what they've suffered and what they're going through. So I think as an organization, we have a full circle when it comes to services. We look at the problem, how is it that we can help, try to fix it, try to help improve their financial stability in their household so that they can go ahead and continue learning those resources and giving them to their families and their kids and so on, creating better habits, creating sustainability for generations to come, not just their generation.
Great. In a couple of minutes, we're going to be talking about homeownership and the court-based rental assistance program. I want to go back to two things that you said, the support that immigrants need. We've seen an influx of immigrants in the last 2 years,
Yes.
Many of them coming from Venezuela. We're still in winter, but we could see spring in the foreground. In regards to the services of BPNC, can you share a little bit, some anecdotes, some examples in helping the newcomers of recent?
So we do assist with case management with the immigrants that have come from the southern border. We have a program actually that's dedicated just to help these individuals learn the new routines here, how is it that they can survive and live a normal life here, more about how they can get the asylum to be able to stay here and not worry about deportation. We educate them a lot on that. We also do many workshops with them to try to let them grow on their own, but also guide them on the normalities here. We do have a program that's called the Southern Border Asylum Program, and we do a lot of the case management with them, setting up appointments, taking kids to school. How is it that they can navigate those things? So we do work very closely with them. We actually work at the Gage Park Playhouse, right there in the Park District, where one of the shelters is based there. So we are there 5 days a week, and sometimes our caseworkers work extra, 6 days, 7 days a week, just so that they have some sort of support. They're not alone, they're here. We want them to stay, we want them to feel welcomed, and we keep pushing immigration reform.
Yeah, and the experience that immigrants have can be so isolating, so it's great to hear the work that your organization is leading. One of the things you also mentioned was the importance of after-school programs, and that not only as a way to enrich youth with mentoring and guidance, but also to keep them out of trouble, especially in the summer months when school's out. Tell us a little bit about that.
We work with the community schools in our area. I believe it's 7. And we have a special funding programs to have at each school to be able to have kids stay after school a little longer. Coming from a single mom, I knew that it was very difficult to stay after school, or who's going to pick me up, who's going to drop me off. So with the after school programs, I feel like it gives parents more of an ease that they're not just at home, that they have something to do, that they're doing something for themselves. So each school has a program, and they have a bunch of neat things for these kids. So they do a lot of crafts and after-school homework help and workshops for them. So it's very nice to see that that was not what it was back in my day, but it is now. So it just goes to show how much we're growing as an organization to be able to provide these services for the kids in the neighborhood.
Wonderful, and that's much needed. That foundation is so necessary on their road to success. Let's now move on to the second topic. Tell us about the court-based rental assistance program powered by the Illinois Housing Development Authority, which assists Illinois tenants and landlords across the state who have pending cases in eviction court.
So this program comes after post the pandemic, COVID-19, and IDA received funding from the Treasury to be able to create this program. The program aims to help renters who are in eviction through court, and it helps with up to $25,000 in assistance, whatever is past due, or 18 months of rental payments. So it's 15 months of past due, and then with an additional 3 future rental payments. And the way that the program works is they have housing stability associations or agencies who help create the portal and go through the process with the renter to do the application itself. So we are one of the agencies. We bring in the renter, talk to them about their rights, which is primarily the most important, try to see how we can help reduce the hardship, whether it's budgeting, whether it's they had a decrease in revenue, how is it that we can continue to give more resources other than just applying for the program. And the program itself, what happens is if they are approved, the funding is given directly to the landlords to keep them housed. And it just, again, it's a full circle. We want to make sure that the homeowner, who's the landlord, is able to sustain their house, pay their mortgage, continue to receive this revenue. And then the renter is able to stay housed without having to worry about if they're going to be evicted after the judge puts in that order. So that's what we do to assist.
That's great, and it's much necessary. We saw the situation at the height of the pandemic where a lot of members of the community didn't have the option of working from home, and because of the shutdown, weren't making an income in order to pay for their housing. In regards to working with, of course, the tenants, landlords obviously benefiting from that type of work. Does your organization also work with landlords that are seeking to get that same type of benefit, whether directly or indirectly, because of the housing assistance to the renters?
So we work with the landlords as far as letting them know their rights, because that's the most important thing, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But as far as housing, we help with what is it that caused you to fall possibly behind on the mortgage? Can we try to mitigate the relationship between figuring out some sort of assistance with you and the servicer? So we would technically give them counseling as a homeowner, no longer as a landlord. We see you as a homeowner. How can you sustain your house? Do you have a hardship? Can we apply with the bank to see if they can give you some sort of assistance to bring you current? Because what if you're behind? Or if you're not behind, but you feel like you're going to be behind? So what is it that we can do to help you form a relationship where you can talk to your servicer or your mortgage company and get some assistance so you can get back on track and stay on track? So that's what we do.
A lot of what you described is there's a mental wellness, right? Well, first of all, you need to be informed and educated. So providing that information, as you've mentioned a couple of times, renters' rights, landlords' rights, and sift through what sometimes could be fact versus fiction. There's usually a belief of, I thought this is what I was entitled to, when in fact it is that and perhaps more. But there's a lot of mental wellness toll as well. In regards to the people that you serve that reach out to you for help, whether they be tenants or landlords, what are some of the stories that you can share with us as far as like the concerns that they have, the lived experiences that they're going through, that they're looking for counseling with your organization?
So I can think of a particular story where there was a homeowner who recently lost his wife. And he was living off Social Security. He was behind on his mortgage. He didn't know what to do. I can't recall how he heard of our organization, but I just remember him saying that by pure miracle from God, that somehow we appeared in his path. He called us, talked to us about the situation. We said, how about you come on down so we can talk a little bit more directly regarding your finances and your housing situation. So he did. We did counseling. It seems like he just wasn't aware. That was the root of the issue. He wasn't aware of the programs out there. So, and I feel like that's majority of the people that come to us. They are not sure where to start, how to get started, what to do, what type of assistance there is out there. So everybody that comes to us is a little confused about how to manage the situation. So we give them that ease to, it's okay, it's going to be okay. You're in a tough situation right now, but you're going to get out of it. I feel like we're the cheerleaders in the background to make sure that they know you have a voice, you have things that you can do to help your situation, you're not alone, and you're in the right hands. And if we can't help you, then we're going to figure out how to help you.
And that's such an important part of the work that you do is to listen and to help people who sometimes feel, because of whether it's a death in the family or an economic situation, they feel alone and they feel like this is only happening to them, when in reality there are other people that are going through or have gone through similarly, and speaking to organizations like yours helps them realize that even though, of course, it is a personal situation, my wife died, as the example that you gave, there is support because there are others like them that they can learn from. You're watching Three Questions with Jasmine Gonzalez, housing counselor in Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. When we come back, this Brighton Park native is going to talk to us about her lived experiences and how that's helped shape the work that she does today.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Loftus. On the next edition of In the Money, we'll discuss managing financial stress and boundaries. This empowering conversation with mental health expert Tamika Hill.
Like, this is your financial situation today, but it's not gonna be your absolute forever.
Join the conversation Thursday at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
You're watching Three Questions with Jasmine Gonzalez, housing counselor, Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, about ensuring that all individuals have access to quality housing and other essential needs regardless of their background or socioeconomic status. Now we're getting a chance to learn more about you. As I mentioned previously, you're a Brighton Park native, born and raised. And you told me when off camera when we were talking about inviting you to come on the program that while you've moved away from Brighton Park, you thought it was very important to work in an organization that is investing in the neighborhood that saw you grow up. Tell us a little bit about being born and growing up in Brighton Park, and why was it so important for you to work with your community?
So I graduated class of 2008. Hopefully it doesn't give away my age. From Shield Elementary, when there was just one back then. And from my experience, there was never any after-school programs during the time, so it was very much walk to school, come back to school, figure out what I'm going to do my homework, stay home. It was very black and white back in the day for me. So I had seen that as I was getting older, there were so many programs for the schools after school. And I thought to myself, that's great, that's amazing. I wish these things would have been back in the day to help improve the community. So that led me to Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. I was an intern for a program that's now called One Summer Chicago. The city always has it. And a former organizer, Maria Estrada, she saw the potential in me and she said, hey, how about we put you as a receptionist for the council? I didn't know much about it at all, actually. And as I started doing my research, I started to see the needs as people were coming in for the organization, why they were coming, how can we help? I was pretty much the face that they would see first. So after that, I just moved up from there with the agency, and I cannot say enough great things about the work that we do. It's very humbling to see how grateful some people are when we do give them that step to move forward and do what they can to help their situation. And extremely grateful to be able to see the impact that we do in the community and in individuals' lives. It's amazing. We just had a groundbreaking for a new building that we're going to have. So we are also going to expand and continue to expand these services, and I hope that we can continue to do what we do and more.
Great, congratulations on that. You shared with me, and you mentioned earlier in this program, that you grew up in a single-family home.
Yes.
Your mother being a source of inspiration in regards to an example of a person dedicated to family and working hard. Tell us about growing up in that environment, and how your mother has been an influence in the work that you do.
Well, my mom has showed me what hard work is. I have seen the resilience that she has to be able to grow out of dirt and get to where she is now. She bought her house. She has done great, and it takes a village. So growing up with my mom, I was also around my grandmother, who was also very much a support for me. And with both these very important women in my life, I've been able to see the struggle, but also the amazing strides that they've done as women, as being able to work hard and get the things that you deserve. And that's what she showed me. Work hard and you will get many things in life.
Absolutely. Our parents are our first teachers and help shape so much of who we are today and what we do today. Let's talking about your mother. What is her background? Was she an immigrant to the United States, I believe?
She was, actually. She came here at 3 months, I believe, on shoulders from a man that was helping cross the river with my grandma. She actually became a citizen, if I'm not mistaken, about 4 years ago. So she was a permanent resident for a very, very long time. And I remember asking her, like, Mom, what are you waiting for? What are you so afraid of? Just do it already. You can do it. Like, you've always told me you can do it. So she became a citizen, and now she works for a law firm as an office manager. So she's amazing. I mean, I know it's a little biased because she's my mom, but she definitely has given me the life lessons, and she has showed me, like, okay, it's time to get dirty and it's time to do the work.
Yeah. I come from a matriarchal family as well. My mother, I remember my mother multiple jobs, right? Cleaning houses and offices, and she also worked in sweatshops, sewing clothes, and I and my grandmother as well. And I just remember that image of spending summers having, walking to where they worked to have lunch with them, and then when I got older, saying, well, I mean, no matter what bad shift I have, or how hard I think my job was, that was the barometer, right? I could never complain because I know what hard work looks like,
right,
and where it comes from. Now, we have a similar background in regards to our parents being immigrants. With the work that you do, and some of it very focused on the immigrant community, do you see some of the stories or hear some of the stories from these newcomers now that are sort of a mirror of some of the things that you saw your mother and your grandmother struggle with when they first came here?
So I feel like, yes, definitely, because they had a very treacherous travel to get here. And they just want the same. They just want to be able to give their children more. So I do mirror a lot with them, because the same thing my grandma wanted to give her daughter, my mom, more. And my mom, seeing the things my grandma had to go through to be able to provide and be a stay-at-home mom, but then also be a wife. It's the same stories I am seeing through newcomers here. They just want to be able to give their children a better future, because that's not back at home. So they came here to do that. And so I do very much see a mirror in their stories.
Do you think, by comparison now versus then, you've mentioned a little bit how now there are more resources in Brighton Park than they were when you were coming up. Mm-hmm. Is it the same in regards to immigrants, newcomers, now versus when your mother and your grandmother immigrated? Do you feel they have more resources and more support, or is it more or less the same?
I definitely feel like there's more resources and more support, which is amazing, because if my mom or grandma were to be able to have these same resources, I'm sure they would have been above and beyond and extremely grateful, although they're grateful now. But I feel like now there's more work that's being done to help give the welcoming to the immigrants that are coming in from the South. So I feel like there's definitely more programs, more health resources, more opportunities for education to teach them how to learn the language, the ins and outs of what is it that we do here in our country and how things work. So I definitely do believe that there's more resources.
That's great. And like you said, some part of the job is just making them aware that those resources exist, and certainly your work in Brighton Park and with your organization is doing so. Jasmine, you've been so generous with your time. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
When we come back, la última palabra, the last word on homeownership barriers.
Hello, Chicago. Sufyan Sohel with CAN TV's Change Agents. Join me each week as we learn about issues facing Chicagoans and meet some incredible leaders working to bring positive change to our city. Tune in to CAN TV Channel 19, watch us live on cantv.org, or download the CAN TV Plus app. I'll see you soon.
And now, la última palabra, the last word on making homeownership more accessible. One of the biggest challenges facing Latinos and people of color in the quest for homeownership is access to affordable housing. Studies have shown that people of color are more likely to live in neighborhoods with high poverty rates and limited access to quality housing options. This lack of affordable housing can make it difficult for people of color to save up for a down payment or qualify for a mortgage. People of color also face discrimination in the housing market. Studies have shown that they are more likely to be denied mortgages or charged higher interest rates than their white counterparts, even when they have similar credit scores and financial profiles. Another barrier is the racial wealth gap. People of color are more likely to have lower incomes and less wealth than white Americans, making it harder for them to save for a down payment or afford the costs of homeownership. This racial wealth gap is a result of generations of discrimination and systemic inequalities that have limited the economic opportunities available to people of color. Despite these challenges, many are working to overcome their barriers and achieve their dreams of homeownership. Organizations and programs like Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, Habitat for Humanity, and the National Urban League, to name a few, are working to provide resources and support for people of color to become homeowners. These organizations offer financial education, down payment assistance programs, and advocacy for fair housing policies to help address the systemic barriers facing people of color in the housing market. It is important for all of us to recognize the barriers facing people of color in the quest for homeownership and work towards creating a more equitable and inclusive housing market for all. And that does it for this edition of Three Questions With, a collaboration by Illinois Latino News and CAN TV. LNN is dedicated to best serving Hispanic Latinos with local multimedia news and information websites across the U.S., including Illinois Latino News, a statewide community-focused initiative. I invite you to look us up on our websites and chat with us via social media. Tell us what you think about the topics we talked about today, and please send me suggestions about what you think we should talk about in the future. Because at the Latino News Network, you're more than just our audience. You are our contributors. I'm Hugo. Thank you all for watching.